As some of you may know, this time of year is really tough for me. It's a time of year where my parents died, and if I'm not careful, I will find myself in the worst funk. I will not feel like doing my devotions, I will eat terribly, and I definitely won't work out. This year, though, I decided I wanted to claim my discipline. I wanted to reclaim my joy. I wanted to claim my peace. And this year, I decided I wasn't going to be in the same funk. But I knew I had to do more than just say it. So what did I do? I put some action behind my faith. I partnered with my favorite chef, with my favorite personal trainer, as well as with my favorite life coach to produce the 21-day journey. That's right, for 21 days from December 1st to December 21st, I've created a journey of mentorship, of community, as well as of information to help make formidable changes. Now, this isn't just for my life. I've decided that I'm inviting 21 friends to come alongside with me on this journey. That's right. You all are my family and friends. So for a one-time fee of $21, that's right, 21 days, 21 people, and a one-time fee of $21, you can get access to this exclusive journey. Again, I want you to come on this journey with me, but I know you want to learn more. So below, I've included a link, and I want you to check it out to see if this is for you. Over these 21 days, we're going to be exploring our spiritual health, our physical health, and learning some healthy eating options along the way. This is what I need, and I need the accountability of my friends alongside of me. There will be an exclusive Facebook group just for us where videos will be uploaded, where there'll be different check-ins, and where we can just end the year over these 21 days together, making a change, doing something different, and speaking against the slumps. This year, there won't be the slumps that there usually are. Instead, we're reclaiming joy, hope, peace, and really ending the year strong. If this sounds like something you want to be a part of, check out that link below and be sure to join. I'm closing registration on November 30th. I know I've only given you 1 week to make up your mind. The way I see it, if it's for you, it's for you. Perhaps you've been praying and saying, God, send me a sign, send me an opportunity. So for some of you, this is an answered prayer. For others of you, you're like, you know what? That would be kind of cool. So whichever end of the spectrum you fall on, if this is for you, go ahead, register today, reserve your spot. Or perhaps you're saying, you know what? I don't need it, but I have a friend who does. Send it on to them. And just for clarity, this isn't just for people who've experienced grief. This is for anyone who just this time of year want to do something about their spiritual health, their physical health, and learning some healthy eating options along the way. If that sounds like you, come on this 21-day journey with me. Again, it kicks off next Tuesday, December 1st. So the last day to register is next Monday, the 30th. Look, tune in. I want to see you there. Greetings, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to part 2 of Potato Chips and Cake. Tonight's conversation is the much anticipated dialogue on emotional eating, and then we're going to tap a little bit into emotional non-eating as well. Tonight, I am joined by some very powerful women. Look, I would say Black girl magic, but to me, I told Nicole earlier, it's more like Black woman brilliance, okay? And so I am so excited to be joining this call. One of my best friends, Candace, is here with us, and she has such a powerful story that she'll share. Nicole as well, who I've gotten to know over the course of years. And then Miss L.A., she is a counselor, a therapist, and I just love seeing this type of representation, just seeing not only female representation, but Black woman representation in the field of counseling and therapy. I think that is so, so powerful. And so today, we're jumping in the conversation, okay? And we're going to jump right in. And so, Nicole, Candace, whichever one of you want to start, if you would, tell us your experience with emotional eating.
Okay, well, I'll tell you my experience. My experience with emotional eating is, I think when people think of emotional eating or, overeating, they always think like, oh, it has to be like sweets, or like I like this candy, cookies. My relationship with it is not like sweets. Actually, I'm not a sweets person. I really don't like sweets. It is food in general. And so it's been a journey with me. I know I also suffer from anxiety. So when I feel like things, too much pressure is coming on, or things of that nature, it could be work, it can be family, it can be anything. If I just feel like a lot of pressure up on me, I eat. And then it's not like sweets or anything. It's just like whatever foods that I'm cooking, I'm ordering out like frequently. And, food is supposed to bring to you, it's supposed to make you feel good. But when you do it in moderation, that's fine. But it becomes a problem when you don't do it in moderation. And that is where it comes for me. I would not do it in moderation. So it was so I've been working a lot. I see a nutritionist.
Nice.
And so that has helped a lot with me and my relationship with food. So that's where I'm at right now.
Thanks. I was about to say thanks, Candace. Thanks, Kelly. Candace, jump on in there. Tell us about your experience, your story with emotional eating.
So my story with emotional eating started when my mom was like very sick. So this was about junior year in college, junior, senior year. So 2019, I'm sorry, 2009, 2010. Um, I was in school at Hampton University. So every weekend I would drive 4 hours here, drive 4 hours back. I would come on Fridays. Um, at around 12, and then I would leave like Sundays around 10 p.m. And on my way back, I would always stop at Sonic. That would be like my that would be like my middle point. That would be like, I love Sonic. Like that was kind of like my constant. Like I knew once I got to Sonic, that's like my comfort. So I would just eat Sonic. I would cook, and it would be like bad things, and I would just eat and eat and eat to forget like what was happening at home. So I would eat tacos, I would eat pizzas, I would eat this, I would eat that, but it would be my way of not dealing with what was going on at home, and my way of forgetting, like, you know, my mom is sick. What if something happens to her? It was just like a way for me to kind of escape what I was going through at the moment. So
Yeah. And both of those stories, I feel like mine somehow like intersects and is like somewhere in there. After my parents died, literally, I found myself in 2016, I found myself eating. And for me, I do have that sweet tooth. So I'm the worst of both because I have the sweet tooth, I had the fast food tooth, I had like a little bit of all of it. And part of it was convenience. I was living in Atlanta. And so flying back and forth, there was airport food, right? And yes, they do have the smoothie sections, but the unhealthy sections looked a little bit better to me, you know? And then, you know, when if the times where I did the drive instead of flying, you know, convenience store food, you know, you got a long drive ahead of you, getting the popcorns and chips was better than the little, apple or orange that's over in the little cold food section. Like for me, it became a situation of convenience as well. And I literally, it wasn't until, and I wrote about this, it wasn't until like a year later that I looked at myself in the mirror. I was like, what happened? Right. So for me, it wasn't like, oh, I'm eating and I'm acknowledging that there's an issue. Literally, I was like, what in the world happened? And I realized I had eaten myself through the holidays, right? Because here I am, I'm like, oh, well, you know, I'm not really doing family dinners because during that time, you know, it was just really challenging. And I personally couldn't handle the thought of the empty chairs at the table. So I didn't really do family dinners. I didn't do a family Thanksgiving dinner, didn't do a family Christmas dinner, got all the invitations, was like, no, thank you, you know? And little did I know, by myself, I was still in a space where I was still making those really bad decisions of making food more so an unhealthy space of comfort for me. And again, it wasn't until a year later I realized I'd eaten myself through all the holidays. And I realized that it was really not only during Thanksgiving and Christmas, but around their birthdays, around Mother's Day, around Father's Day. And all of a sudden I would tell myself like, oh, well, I deserve this whole 2-person cake, you know, little 2-person cakes from the grocery store. Oh, I deserve the whole cake because I'm stressed. Or, oh, I deserve this whole thing of candy because it's around their anniversary. Oh, I deserve, right? And so then it became a whole relationship of what I deserved from food, right? And so again, the triggers are so interesting. Now, for either one of you, do you all experience triggers now for the emotional eating? Like, are there any triggers that now that you experience and you're like, when the trigger happens, you're like, restrain me, I know it's coming.
Yes. And sometimes you don't even know the triggers. You're just eating. And then, like you were saying, the death of your parents. Mm-hmm. So my dad passed away as well, August 20th of 2006. And, you know, around his birthday, like I'll feel myself not even knowing what date it is. You know, you're just going on about it. And then next thing you know, I'm eating or I'm feeling a certain way and I need to get food. And then I'm looking at the calendar and it's like, wait, like, it's like subconsciously, like you're not even thinking about it. It just happens, you know? So those triggers are still there and you just have to recognize them and just try to make the better choice.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's just like boredom. Sometimes I'm just bored. I don't have anything to do. It's quarantine. What am I doing? I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. I can't go to the gym. I couldn't go to the mall. I couldn't do anything. So I was just bored. So I ate. With my mom, that doesn't trigger me anymore because she's fine. She's doing well. But now it's just boredom, really, sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Now, out of these things, what are some, I want to talk about productive and non-productive ways that we address this, right? And Miss LA, I'm going to come to you in a bit for some real coping skills and some real professional stuff. Let me ask you, Nakobe and Candace, help me out. What are some productive ways that you've navigated the space of emotional eating, and what are some unproductive ways? I know for me personally, unproductive ways, when I realized I had gained the weight, I was like, oh, let me start weighing myself every day. So I wasn't changing what I was eating, but I was tracking my weight. Like it was terrible. And so as a result, think about it. You already don't recognize yourself in the mirror. You already emotionally don't feel like yourself. And now you're allowing a scale to tell you, to affirm the terrible way you feel. So again, that was a really unproductive way that I dealt with it, in a bad way. Any ways that you all try to deal with it that you're like, yep, that didn't work?
For me, sometimes if I eat something like I know I quote unquote shouldn't, I'll beat myself up about it. Like, Candace, why'd you eat that? You shouldn't have eaten that. Why did you eat that?
Right.
So sometimes you just have to, if you want candy, you eat the candy and you do better tomorrow, So that's kind of like, as I've gotten older, that's kind of what I try to do. Like, I don't try to deprive myself from things that I want, but like Nakobe said, in moderation. Productive things, I got into the gym. That's been one of my things that I really enjoy doing. Doing other things besides, like, when you go out with your friends, majority of what you do is what? You go to dinner, you go eat, you go get a snack, you go, drink. Or so finding other things like going on a walk, going to a trail, to spend time with friends and family, as opposed to going to Cheesecake Factory or going to here, always revolving around food.
Mm-hmm. And you brought up a good point, and Kobe, I'm about to come to you, but as one of Candace's best friends, I can't let go of the fact of one of her productive ways, and when she was dealing with it, was she ended up losing 100 pounds on her own, like going to the gym. She literally took control over her emotions and took control over that situation. So you're about to just pass that by, Keith. Okay.
I was going to say the same thing, because at one point in time, me and Candace were going to the same gym, and we were together, and that's my thing that I admire about Candace, because me and Candace have had conversations before about weight and working out and things like that. And me, not so much. Like, when we were doing the working out, I ended up finding out I was pregnant with my second child. So like, I stopped working out during that time. I probably should have stayed working out, but I stopped. And so, but Candace, she was like consistent, and she was at O2 Fitness working it out. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
I love it. And so, Kobe, what you mentioned, you have a nutritionist, Kobe. So productive ways you've dealt with. You mentioned a nutritionist. Talk to us about that. And how does someone even find a nutritionist?
Oh yeah. So I have a nutritionist, and I just actually found her through my insurance company, with like Blue Cross Blue Shield. I knew I had a problem. I knew I needed to get it under control. Just looking at myself in the mirror, like clothes not being fitting anymore, or I'm sitting here trying to dress a body that was a size 8 body, and now I'm a size like 12, 14 body.
Yeah.
Just like needing to know, like, how do I do this? I don't know. So my first thing was like a nutritionist, maybe she could help. And so going to the nutritionist, we've talked about things, we've come up with plans. I even found out like some foods, because they do like testing on you and things like that to make sure, what you're eating. I ended up finding out as well that I ended up having like ulcerative colitis. So so that some of the foods that I was eating that was triggering certain things in my body, food is supposed to be like fuel to your body and everything. And when we are overeating and when we're not eating the right things, it starts to attack our bodies. You know, it starts to make us feel sluggish. We're not wanting to do anything, a little bit lazy. So with me doing that, you know, we came up with a plan. She asked me how much I wanted to lose, or like, am I just trying to lose, or do I want to be healthy? That was her questions to me. And every so often we come back to that question. What's your new goal? Are you trying to lose, or are you trying to be healthy? And mine is, I'm trying to be healthy. Mm-hmm. You know, and being healthy looks different for everybody.
Yeah.
And so I just try to make the right food choices. And like Candace said, try not to beat myself over me eating something that I know I wasn't supposed to eat. You know, she always told me to go ahead, eat it, and do better the next time. Mm-hmm. Like, not deprive yourself of it, because she was telling me, like, when I deprive myself over, like with the food, that's when I would overeat even more.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are really powerful. And something that really sticks out about what you just said when you talked about when it came to emotional eating and eating, like having goals. And I'm sitting here because that hits me, because I have goals in every other area of my life. Think about it, y'all. We have financial goals, you got career goals, you got personal goals, relational goals. But how many of us, especially those who struggle with emotional eating, can truly say, oh, I have food goals, right? And it's like, wow. Like, so when you just said that, it was like, ding, ding, like, let me take a little note here. Like, that is really powerful. I'm glad you said that. So let me ask you all this. When it came to you all's emotional eating, did you all communicate with like friends and family about it, or was it like an untalked about thing? Like, how did y'all communicate or not communicate about it?
For me, I didn't, because I don't think I really realized I used food as the comfort. I just knew I liked Sonic. I knew I liked the cheeseburger, so I got the cheeseburger.
Right.
I didn't really put two and two together until I stopped and thought, like, wow, Candace, you know, every time you go past Sonic, you don't have to stop at Sonic.
Right.
You know, you're using that's like a constant. You know, Sonic is going to be there. Every time you hit that halfway point, you know Sonic is going to be there. So,
right.
You know, I never really spoke about it with anyone.
Right. What about you, Kobe?
Here, I never like talked about it like verbally with anybody. I was just like, you know, I'm gonna work out. You know, what are you doing? You listen to it? Oh, I see a nutritionist. You know, not really talking about, you know, because when you know, it's taboo in the Black community about anything that is not right or wrong. So when you hear someone say like, oh, I overeat, or, you know, everybody always has an excuse for why you do something, and it's not, you know, encouraging, or they look down on you for certain things. So yeah, I kept it to myself.
Yeah, understood. For me, I think it was so far gone. I was so far gone and so much in the I deserve it mindset that it wasn't a thing to talk about. Like, and who's going to go to someone who just lost their parents and be like, no, Kaya, you know, like, I'm going to be honest here. Like, who's going to be like, no, Kaya, don't eat. It's like, whatever makes you feel good, you know, like, so I definitely didn't talk about it at all. But my last question for you, Candace and Kobe, is this. Some people talk about how holidays can trigger their emotional eating. Do you all feel that is the case, and why or why not?
For me, it does, because Thanksgiving, you have all this food, you have all these desserts, you have all, you know, and what are you doing? You're sitting around, you're talking to your family, you're eating.
Right.
And, you know, one of my excuses is, oh, it's the holidays, you know, I'll do better.
Right. But
it's always, and then after I do it, I just feel so, like, my stomach is so full, so bloated, I'm so tired.
Right.
And I say, Ken, why did you eat that when you know you really didn't eat that, all of that? But so I think it's just everybody's mindset of the holiday, like, oh, it's the holidays, so, you know, it doesn't count over the holidays, but it always counts, you know.
Right. Always.
Yeah, and just sitting thinking about like the menu, because we were like, okay, we're gonna switch it up this year, maybe not cook holiday foods, but then I'm like, but I want my mac and cheese. I want all of the Thanksgiving foods, you know.
Right.
And like you said, you're with your family, you're sitting around. You know, this year it's gonna look a little different because of COVID.
Right.
But you're usually sitting around, you're eating, picking up. I know I am. I'm eating, I'm picking up stuff as I'm cooking,
Yes.
tasting,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm eating dinner when it's time to eat dinner.
That's right.
And so it does trigger a lot of things, you know, with the holidays. And it's the holidays, so it's like, I'm gonna eat it. This is like, I deserve this, to have this holiday.
Right, exactly. The I deserve. Those are dangerous words for the
Yes.
emotional eating people. Those are dangerous words.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Well, you all have added such good parts of the conversation. And I just know the amens that are coming in the chat section even now. People are like, that's me, that's me, that's me. And honestly, that is the reason why we, in addition to bringing in a therapist and counselor to discuss coping skills and next steps, that's why we do bring in people who look like us, right? So that it's not to kind of take that taboo away, to be like, no. You can be a professional and still go through those challenges. You can be Christian and still go through these challenges. You know, you can be, it's not always about death. It's not always about sick. Like sometimes it's just life has happened in a way that we do that, ladies. So at this time, I'm going to shift things a little bit and turn to our expert here, counselor. I'm just so excited to talk to you, Miss LA. So we're about to get this conversation started.
As some of you may know, this time of year is really tough for me. It's a time of year where my parents died, and if I'm not careful, I will find myself in the worst funk. I will not feel like doing my devotions, I will eat terribly, and I definitely won't work out. This year, though, I decided I wanted to claim my discipline. I wanted to reclaim my joy. I wanted to claim my peace. And this year, I decided I wasn't going to be in the same funk. But I knew I had to do more than just say it. So what did I do? I put some action behind my faith. I partnered with my favorite chef, with my favorite personal trainer, as well as with my favorite life coach to produce the 21-day journey. That's right, for 21 days from December 1st to December 21st, I've created a journey of mentorship, of community, as well as of information to help make formidable changes. Now, this isn't just for my life. I've decided that I'm inviting 21 friends to come alongside with me on this journey. That's right, you all are my family and friends. So for a one-time fee of $21, that's right, 21 days, 21 people, and a one-time fee of $21, you can get access to this exclusive journey. Again, I want you to come on this journey with me, but I know you want to learn more. So below, I've included a link, and I want you to check it out to see if this is for you. Over these 21 days, we're going to be exploring our spiritual health, our physical health, and learning some healthy eating options along the way. This is what I need, and I need the accountability of my friends alongside of me. There will be an exclusive Facebook group just for us, where videos will be uploaded, where there'll be different check-ins, and where we can just end the year over these 21 days together, making a change, doing something different, and speaking against the slumps. This year, there won't be the slumps that there usually are. Instead, we're reclaiming joy, hope, peace, and really ending the year strong. If this sounds like something you want to be a part of, check out that link below and be sure to join. I'm closing registration on November 30th. I know I've only given you 1 week to make up your mind. The way I see it, if it's for you, it's for you. Perhaps you've been praying and saying, God, send me a sign, send me an opportunity. So for some of you, this is an answered prayer. For others of you, you're like, you know what? That would be kind of cool. So whichever end of the spectrum you fall on, if this is for you, go ahead, register today, reserve your spot. Or perhaps you're saying, you know what? I don't need it, but I have a friend who does. Send it on to them. And just for clarity, this isn't just for people who've experienced grief. This is for anyone who just this time of year want to do something about their spiritual health, their physical health, and learning some healthy eating options along the way. If that sounds like you, come on this 21-day journey with me. Again, it kicks off next Tuesday, December 1st. So the last day to register is next Monday, the 30th. Look, tune in. I want to see you there.
All right, Miss LA, look, I have some questions. As soon as I posted that we were going to be talking about emotional eating, my inbox blew up. People were like, please ask this. Can y'all talk about this? Can y'all talk about this? And we don't have time to talk about every single aspect of it. But Miss LA, there are a couple parts that we just have to hit. Okay, so the first part is, can you just, what is emotional eating? Like, just so we're all on the same page, because there's so many different ways people define it and people explain it. What's emotional eating? Because there might be someone watching right now that's like, I don't even know what emotional eating is, you know? So what's emotional eating?
Emotional eating is when it's the brain. There's a part of the brain, a receptor of the brain, where the dopamine levels are so high that can be satisfied with different things. In this case, it just happens to be satisfied with food. Some people are satisfied with drugs and alcohol, gambling. Unfortunately, it's not in the DSM-5 eating disorder in this particular case, but it's still an addiction. And so we try to sort of balance it before it gets to a more serious level,
right?
With emotional eating. And again, as the ladies mentioned, a lot of it is just to be able to cope with things in life. Like I said, other people use food, other avenues, but in this case, sometimes just to be able to cope and to deal is what people do when they eat, to overeat or eat too much or try to satisfy those urges or emotions with food.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Now, what is the difference? And you really just hit on it. How can we tell the difference between someone who is emotional eating and someone who just has a strong sweet tooth per se? And I think Nakobe hit on that earlier when she was like, I do it and I don't have a sweet tooth. So you started on that, Nakobe, but what might you add to that, Miss LA?
Well, it's almost, again, like an addiction. There's some people who are addicted to drug. I'll use drugs in this case.
Okay.
Someone who are addicted to drugs and someone who has, who just casually uses.
Right.
Okay. The same thing with food. Emotional eating is when someone, just casually satisfies it until it gets to the point where it's out of control.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's just a matter of saying, hey, let's just look at some things. When I heard someone mention about triggers. Yeah. Typically, a trigger lasts about 12 minutes. So usually what I teach is that if you could do something for those 12 minutes, regardless of how you're satisfying that urge or that addiction, if you can get through those 12 minutes, you sort of substitute things like, okay, I feel it coming on. So when you feel yourself wanting to eat and you know that that's something you're going to do, you have to divert that thinking for that short period of time. Even though 12 minutes can be an eternity, it can be forever, right? Yeah. But I really try to teach it just to get through those 12 minutes. So when you go from just casually eating and trying to satisfy that urge till it gets to a point where you're just now starting to overeat, you start to notice little things that you do. People around you start to notice things. When food starts to get missing, when you start buying clothes, right? And the clothes are little, the sizes just keep getting bigger and bigger.
Right.
The family starts noting things. Then, it's time to say, hey, we have to address this, because now it's not just something that's casual, it's something that's turning into something greater.
Right. Wow. You just Nakobe, me and you were sitting here like.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like the 12-minute thing. Like, I didn't know that the urges last 12 minutes. And that is like something that I'm going to take away from this, is because if I can last that 12 minutes,
right,
else to do.
But that's when those coping skills come in.
Yeah, please, come on, talk about, while you're there, talk about coping skills. What kind of coping skills can you offer people who are viewing this and are like, help? What are some coping skills we might be able to offer?
Well, again, first of all, it's just to recognize in the beginning that it is a problem, or it's starting to be a problem.
Okay. The
first thing with any addiction, regardless if it's food or whatever, first you have to recognize that it's a problem.
Yeah.
The second thing is that when you learn something, you have to put that into play. It doesn't make sense to search for answers and search for results and not follow through with your search.
Right.
The second thing, another thing is to get help for it. Because again, when you start to recognize that you're starting to change and things are not the same, and someone brings it to your attention. My mother used to say, if someone tells you once, then you sort of overlook it.
Right.
But when people are telling you over and over again, now I have to address that.
That's it.
So now I'm starting to think, okay, I'm satisfying myself too much now with food.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's so the habits begin to change. And like any recovery process, the whole thing is to begin to change the way you think. That's all counseling is when I'm with patients, is helping them change. I can't change it for them, but helping them come up with coping skills to change the way they think. So now I'll start to give them solutions to, like, what are some other things you can do when that trigger comes?
Right.
You know it's coming, you can feel it, but you know, instead of running to the refrigerator, what can you do? Can we go to the store and start to buy things that are now healthy, right? So I'm going to the store with patients, and I'm saying, okay, let's shop, okay? If you go to Walmart, everything in the middle of Walmart is junk food, right?
Yeah.
Everything on the outside of Walmart is healthy food. I'm not going to go in the middle of Walmart and search. I'm going to go to the outskirts. I'm going to get those healthy foods. I'm going to substitute. You know what I mean? So so other coping skills start to come into place. I know sometimes I get triggered when this happens.
Right.
Or when I'm watching a food show, or I'm watching this. So then I start to say, okay, well then why are you watching it? Let's watch something else. Right. If you're going to the same store and you know that store is where you buy all your cookies, cakes, and stuff, now we got to go to another store. If you're going down the same aisles when you shop, we got to switch aisles.
That's it.
You know what I mean? So then you start to change the way that person thinks. Wow. It's not healthy for me to go to this store because they have honey buns that I like, then they're always on sale.
Love them.
Now I have to go to this store because they don't have it. Okay. Or if they have food like that, like a Whole Foods or anything like that, they have nutritional kinds of food. So you start to substitute that junk food with healthy stuff.
Right.
And again, it's starting to change the way you think. So it's not a matter of just jumping on the scale and saying, oh my God, I lost 5 pounds. No.
Right.
It's about saying, I'm not going to touch the scale at all. I'm going to get into, talking to a nutritionist, talking to a therapist, coming up with healthier ways to substitute the way I eat, but more importantly, substitute the way I think.
Yeah. It's like changing your mindset.
That food, yes, you have to change your mindset. Right. All of us deal with tragedy. There's no question about it. You live long enough, something is going to happen. It's going to trigger those emotions to make you feel differently. Like, I'm sad today because I lost a friend, I lost a parent. The typical thing is to want to feel better.
Right.
So in this case, you eat.
Yeah.
And I would say the person that you just lost, how would they feel if they knew that you were gouging on food because of their death or their sickness? Would they feel better or bad because you're using them as an excuse to cope for what you're feeling at that moment? Well, no, my mother she didn't use drugs. So then you're using drugs because right? Yeah. Or my mother wasn't a gouger. She didn't gouge food. So then you're gouging because, well, that's how I cope. Okay, so what would you do to substitute that emotion? Because again, that's not an emotion you can attach to that person because that person didn't overeat.
Right.
You can't attach that emotion if that emotion is not something that person, made you think. It's just not, so we got to come up with something different. What would your mother want you to do?
Right.
She would want me to be healthy. Okay, so then let's take that emotion that you're using to overeat and say, hey, you know what? My mom wouldn't want me to overeat and get sick and overweight and obese. She would want me to be healthy and strong. And, we prayed right before this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you know that your mother's with the Lord.
Yeah.
And you know that your mother is up there, saying, oh my God, Lord, please don't let her eat on my behalf.
Right.
That's what I would be saying. Right. So again, it's all about changing the way you think, to recognize that you don't have to beat yourself up in order to deal with an emotion that you can't handle.
Wow.
Because typically when we do that, we're beating ourselves up for emotions we cannot handle at that time. And what I teach is that you're greater than that situation, or
Come on.
greater than that circumstance, or greater than that panic, greater than that anxiety.
Yeah.
You're greater than that. And so, especially the God in you.
Yeah. Yeah.
The God in you is greater than that situation. So
Yeah.
even if you feel like you want to gouge, you know, first thing you do, you say, God, look, I'm getting ready to eat this whole chicken. Okay?
Right. Whole thing.
All
The
12
whole.
pieces in the bucket. I'm getting ready to eat. And I'm going to eat every nugget in McDonald's.
Come
and,
on.
and I'm saying, okay, that moment, again, a coping skill is,
Right.
let me open up the word. Let me call a friend that knows how to pray.
Yeah.
Let me call my counselor or my spouse or my, somebody to get me through those 12 minutes
Yeah.
of that trigger.
Wow. You just, I feel like, Kobe, do I need to pass the offering? Where do we send the offering? I think, where's the offering? But and the truth is, like, I'm smiling and I'm laughing with it, but it's because everything you're saying is so true and it's so on point. My husband, who's also a pastor, he has a saying. He says, if I hit you, I didn't mean to miss you. And
That's
I think those of us viewing this, I think we can truly say, if we've struggled with emotional eating, we've been hit, like, literally.
Yeah.
I love the coping skills that you offered, Miss LA. I love the way you put it, especially in the context of faith, right? This company, KWS Ministries, we are a faith community. And so with that in mind, it's so important that we don't separate the two. And I think that so often we can do that. Like, oh, well, this is a part of this, and this is like we cherry pick what it's a part of. But really, if it really is a part of one, like, we got to keep it all together. And I love that. I also love, and for those viewers, y'all know, if y'all have heard me talk on these roundtables more than once, y'all know I'm a huge proponent of counseling, especially for our people, our community. It is not a taboo, y'all. We got to make it happen. And so, as someone who is an advocate of counseling, who's done individual counseling, who's done group counseling around grief and etc., I can tell you, if you just heard Miss LA talk and you were like, man, that's good, she won't even counsel right there. She was offering coping skills. So imagine what it's like to sit down with a counselor, to sit down with a therapist. And she was speaking generally about it, but imagine if she was talking to you in a counseling session about your situation and really prompting that, helping you consider what to think about, right? Considering that. So y'all, if y'all never you just took me back to a therapy session. I was like, ooh. So again, you all who are watching, if in that, if you were saying amen, like we're saying amen, that is a good sign that therapy could be an awesome option for you. It's not some weird thing where you lay back on a couch, right? It is healthy. It is normal. And it's not always when you've gone through, all the trauma and back. You can go when you're feeling good, but just want to navigate some stuff in life, y'all. So before I end this conversation, there is a really important question that I do want to ask you, Miss LA, and that is, there's some individuals who perhaps are watching right now who say, you know what, I'm not the one going through the emotional eating. I'm not an emotional eater. However, my friend or family member is. You mentioned, Miss LA, that sometimes friends and family might notice. So what might you offer? How can, as family members who might have loved ones experiencing emotional eating, how might we support and love on those family members? Like, what advice or recommendations do you have for us?
Number one, be careful how you approach that person, and don't be afraid to approach it. We never want to tell people, what we actually see and observe them doing.
Yeah.
It's not my business. Well, it is your business.
Right.
But it is also your business to understand how to bring it to them. You don't want to lose that friend. You don't want to lose that relative. So I'm definitely going to, again, say, I would pray about it first and say, hey, how do I approach this person? Because I see them hitting a danger point.
Yeah.
I see that they're starting to gain a lot of weight. The other thing is, if that person, let's just say it's your child or your spouse, you're starting to notice, as I said earlier, that food is missing. Yeah. You're starting to notice that their habits are changing. They're picking up a little weight. Then you know what? It's okay to bring it to their attention in a way that that's very supportive, and not in a way of throwing shade, so to speak. You know what I mean? It's okay to do that. And in the Black culture, and the young lady mentioned it, and I'm old school as well. We were taught, you don't talk about that kind of stuff.
Right.
But then behind your back, people are talking.
Right.
I'd rather talk to you.
Yeah.
In the church, that's another taboo. It's always like, okay, yeah, you got a lot of big women in the choir. And I'm like, well, you know what? Instead of you saying rude things like that, how about talking in such a way, especially older women, talking to the younger women, saying, hey, you know what? I'm here for you.
That's it.
If you ever want to talk about stuff, because sometimes people just need to know you care enough to bring it to their attention that they are overeating.
Yeah.
Or that you've noticed something in them. So I don't want people to be afraid to address it with someone. I would just say be very, very careful how you do it, because you don't want to lose them. You really don't. And it's okay to be honest and say, hey, is there anything going on? Now you mentioned counselor and therapist. There's a big difference between the two.
Okay, help us out. Explain, please. Okay. Educate us. Help us.
A counselor is someone like at church, someone who's listening to you and just giving you some sound advice.
Okay. A
therapist is one who used different theories. They use the Gestalt theory, or they use person-centered. They've studied theorists, and they're using those theorists in sessions. A psychologist is one who looks at the science of it as well as the therapy part. So how does the brain react when you're taking this medication? Those kinds of things. A psychiatrist obviously is one who has the medical background, as well as the therapeutic background. He can write prescriptions and see you for mental health and so on and so forth. So there's levels of it. So I would encourage those who really need therapy, who are looking for a therapist to use a certain theology to deal with your, whatever your addiction is. Well, what therapy do you use? A lot of people use cognitive behavior therapy. So that's the difference between a therapist and a counselor. A therapist uses those taught, got to go to school, learned, studied, gotten licensed, because they've learned to use different theories. Right. But those are things that we've been taught not to do, even in church. I've had to tell my pastor, and pastors in the past, stop telling people you don't need a therapist. Just, lay hands on yourself. And I'm saying there's nothing wrong with that. No. But I'm encouraging you to go to a therapist, find out what's wrong, and take that to Jesus.
Come on. Look, I tell people all the time, faith without works is dead.
Absolutely.
Faith without works. So you can, family, listen to me clearly. Mm-hmm. We can pray for God to heal us. We can pray for God to help us. We can pray to God for discipline. And sometimes God answers our prayers miraculously in that moment. But there are also times where he will use people on that tier that Miss LA just offered, that will use the counselor, the therapist, the psychologist, the psychiatrist. I think I got them all, Miss LA.
Yes,
so he'll use those people to help meet you at the point of your need. And guess what? There's nothing wrong with that. There is not a single thing wrong with that. No. And God uses them. God absolutely uses them. I know I've told people plenty of time, I believe strongly that a therapist, I say all the time, my therapist saved my life. I didn't feel suicidal. I didn't feel like hurting myself or anyone else. But when I say she saved my life, I mean, she saved me to keep me sane. She saved me to keep me in a space of being healthy. She saved me so that some 4 years later, I could use my story to encourage others, to write books, to do these roundtables, because there was more to me than that dark space. And she helped pull that out of me, right? She helped move me past that space of emotional eating. So please let me tell you, y'all, as a pastor on the line with y'all, please let me tell y'all, please, if therapy, if counseling, if you having a psychologist or psychiatrist is something that you need, the help you need, get the help you need. There's nothing wrong with it at all. Ladies, I want to thank you all so much. Man, this has been powerful. Like, oh my goodness. Miss LA, I'm going to call you back. I appreciate you all so much for Candace and Kobe. Thank you for your transparency.
Yeah,
your transparency.
Absolutely.
Candace, thank you, right? And it's my prayer and my hope that somebody was able to hear the story shared and say, you know what? that was me, or that we can just normalize the stigmas around them to get the help we need. And Miss LA, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming through with the revival, Miss LA.
Yes, you dropped some gems, Miss LA.
Come on, we gonna send our ties there later.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
We appreciate you, y'all. That's what 20 years in this field looks like, okay? I appreciate all of you. And before we log off, I simply want to say a prayer. If you're watching this today, I believe strongly you're not watching it by chance. You didn't just happen upon it, and you didn't happen to just be sitting here staring at it. There was something about this emotional eating. There was something about this emotional conversation that hit you at the point of your need, that perhaps hit you, or perhaps even connected you to a friend or a loved one, and you needed to hear what was said tonight. So I just want to say a prayer over you, okay? So let's pray. Father, we come to you right now. Thank you for being such a big God, such a mighty God. Father, even now at the end of this conversation, I pray it is just the start of a conversation that perhaps a family is having right now. My prayer is that language was shared, God, that meets people at the point of their need. I pray that through this conversation, someone found relatability, that through this conversation, somebody found encouragement, that through this conversation, somebody had an answer to their prayer. Father, even now, I pray you would continue to cover your sons and your daughters walking and navigating this path of emotional eating. Satan, we serve you. Notice you have no authority in our lives. So even now, God, I trust that people are taking their minds back, their emotions back, their feelings back, their discipline back, even now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. And family, stay tuned for the upcoming roundtable. Starting next week, we're going to kick off Seasons, Greetings, and Grief, where I'm sitting down with different people who are navigating grief during the holiday season. So you do not want to miss that dialogue, especially if grief is something that you've been experiencing lately. Find out how people are navigating it in healthy ways in this season. God bless you, and thank you for tuning in.